Yo, this is Court Bauer from MLW. Shout out to True Hill Heat. Give them a listen.
All right.
Hello, hello, hello. It is me, the new media Forbidden Door, SP3, back again with our wrap-up, our final video when it comes to New Japan Pro Wrestling's G1 Climax 32 tournament. This was originally supposed to be a Patreon exclusive, but I did the poll and the 78% of you voted for this to be on our YouTube channel. So it is for all of our subscribers, all of our supporters for the True Hill Heat YouTube channel. We appreciate you all. So we give you a little extra content. Not only did you get the NJPW G1 Climax 32 roundtable review with myself and Jay News talking about the finals, the final 3-night, and the tournament overall, but you get SP3's exclusive top 10 list of the best matches from NJPW's G1 Climax 32 tournament. This one started on July 16th, went over a month until the finals on August 18th, and I am here to wrap things up to give you my top 10 list here. I compiled this list. The rest of the True Hills, your contributors here on the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, got a list of the matches they needed to watch. And of course, now I'm here to give it to all of you. So if you didn't watch the G1 Climax 32 tournament, let these be the 15 or so matches that you are going to watch from the tournament when you have a chance, when you have the time to make it. I devote my time to make it easier for you to consume this content right here on the YouTube channel and also on NJPW World. So not only am I going to give you the top 10 best matches from the tournament, I'm also going to give you the honorable mentions, maybe the matches that just missed out on the cut of being the best that the tournament had to offer. I'm also going to give you my honorable mentions, which some of these are kind of some of my favorite matches of the tournament. One in particular where I will say if this was a list of my top 10 favorite matches, I would definitely have this in my top 10, but I wanted to make it based on, certain things. Certain things make it the best match. So, atmosphere. And this is really tough with what New Japan has to offer nowadays, with the fans in Japan not able to cheer and boo. Atmosphere adds a lot. So if the fans are loud with their clapping, their stomping, if they're able to make noise and give it that atmosphere that New Japan Pro Wrestling has always been known for when they had the sellout crowds, that's one thing. The in-ring quality, the work rate, basically, that's also another thing, another part of my criteria that makes a great match. The storytelling. What type of story did they tell? What was the story going in for the performers involved? And what was the story coming out? What was the last bit of, what did you take away from each particular match? The finish, the results, also, has a factor in there as well. So all of those things kind of make up what is a great match and what is going to be the best matches from NJPW's G1 Climax 32 tournament. So now that you know my criteria of what's going to make up these 10 best matches, before we get into the honorable mentions, I want to tell you I appreciate everyone who's watching us on the premiere here on the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, who's watching us on Facebook or Twitter. Remember, though, show your appreciation back is very easy. It's the easiest thing you can do. Just drop a thumbs up on this video. Share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family on all your favorite social media platforms. If you are new to the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, smash that subscribe button. Hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content here. We got plenty of great content throughout the week. Tonight, here on the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, there will be no NX3. I know the good brother Romeo and the gang said that yesterday on Rated Raw Superstars, but in case you missed that, if you're watching this on demand, if you're watching this on the live premiere, just know no NX3 this week, as you can go over to the True Hill Heat Sports YouTube channel, as their fellas are going to be doing a New York Mets versus New York Yankees watch along at 7 p.m. Eastern time. It will be Romeo, True Draw Josh, and Chris G watching the Mets versus Yankees. So you can go over and check that out. We are spreading out the content. So not only do you get content here on the YouTube channel, not only do you get it on the sports channel, you also get it on Twitch. You had a Rampage wrap up. If you haven't watched that already, that's over on the twitch.tv/True Hill Heat Wrestling. If you haven't watched Dark Power from last week, check that out as well. All of that content's over on the Twitch. We got the True Hill Heat Sports YouTube channel. And in here, the flagship, the mothership, the True Hill Heat Wrestling YouTube channel. But without further ado, let's get into this list. So I started off with the honorable mentions. Now, the honorable mentions, I didn't rank them in, from quality. I just wanted to mention the 5 matches that I think deserve mentioning outside of my top 10 best matches from this tournament. So I did these in order of how they happened. So the match that stood out the most for me later on in the tournament, from night 18, which was the final night of block action, you had Shingo Takagi going up against El Fantasma. The story going into this one was simple. El Fantasma, this is his first heavyweight tournament, basically his first tournament in the heavyweight division since graduating from the junior heavyweight division. Shingo Takagi came into this matchup needing a win to win the entire D block after Will Ospreay defeated Juice Robinson in the opener to the night. Shingo owned the tiebreaker over Ospreay, so he could tie him with a 4-2 record, but he would have the tiebreaker and would thus win the D block. El Fantasma had something to, fight for, because he needed a statement win in this G1 Climax tournament to really cement himself as a heavyweight. And these two guys had great chemistry with one another, some great near falls. The pumping bomber CR2 did not finish the job for El Fantasma for ELP, so he pulled out something extra, the CR3, which was the hands crossed behind Shingo Takagi's head, Shingo Takagi's back, and then power drift his head into the canvas for the victory, to not only make that statement win that he needed to cement himself in the heavyweight division, but to eliminate Shingo Takagi and thus giving Will Ospreay the victory in the D block. So definitely a match worth going out of your way, and probably the best match of night 18, the final night of block action. Also, another honorable mention from night 13 in Osaka. Osaka had probably 2 of the best shows of the entire tournament, with night 12 and night 13. Spoiler alert, we will be talking about those nights shortly and throughout this video as well. But night 13, you had Tomohiro Ishii versus Chase Owens. Chase Owens was another guy that kind of needed a statement win in this G1 Climax. Last year in the tournament, he had a statement win by defeating Hiroshi Tanahashi, and then he needed one in this tournament. He had come up short to, Tama Tonga, his former stablemate, and then his current stablemate, Jay White. He needed the statement win, and he went out there and had a Tomohiro Ishii type of matchup. This was hard hitting, hard strikes, forearms, the big C trigger, as Chase Owens always hit. And then in the end, he folded up Tomohiro Ishii with the package power driver to defeat Ishii. And this was really a defining loss for Ishii, because it showed that maybe the competition has caught up to Ishii. He has always been a standout and one of the MVPs of the G1 Climax tournament. This year, he just wasn't. And after this loss, his record was 1-4, and really set up things for his final matchup of the tournament against Sonata on night 18. So this was a big loss for Ishii and also a big win for Chase Owens. Night 12, like I said, night 12 and 13, huge nights for the G1 Climax tournament, and it had some huge matches First, I want to talk about from night 12, you had Switchblade Jay White versus Great Ocon. Probably Great Ocon's best matchup since last year's G1 Climax tournament, and his fantastic match, which I've been fawning over. If you follow us on Patreon or, hear me talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling, I talked about Great Ocon's great match with Zack Sabre Jr. last year. This match was just as good. Some great character work with him and Switchblade Jay White, two heels, but the crowd got more behind Great Ocon and really wanted to see the upset victory here with Jay White. He was on this winning streak, this run, kind of showing his dominance. He's only had lost once in the entire year against Tomohiro Ishii earlier this year, but he was undefeated in the G1 going into this matchup and really showed off his cockiness, which made a very captivating comeback for Great Ocon, and the fans were really behind him. He had the sheep killer at one point locked on Jay White. He kept going for the claw, and Switchblade was able to not only absorb the claw, but while he was in the claw, he hit the Blade Runner, pushed the claw off of his head, and then pinned Great Ocon for the victory in this one. A great matchup on night 12. Speaking of night 12, another great match from night 12 was Zack Sabre Jr. versus Hirooki Goto. Zack Sabre Jr. is a technical wrestling wizard, but this one was more of like the hard-hitting style of Goto mixed with the technical ability of Zack Sabre Jr. These two guys had great chemistry in this one. In the end, Zack Sabre Jr. focused on that arm, bent it back in a disarmer type of move, shades of Becky Lynch, and pulled out the victory in this one. Now, like I said, the honorable mentions have some of my favorite matches of the tournament, and one of those was Switchblade Jay White versus Great Ocon. The other, I would say, arguably, probably in the top three of my favorite matches of this entire tournament was David Finlay versus Juice Robinson from night 6 of the tournament. These two men, former IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, former winners of the World Tag League. This crowd in Kurgan Hall really were behind David Finlay and really wanted to see him pick up the big victory. This was only his second match in the tournament. For Juice, he was coming off a big win over Shingo Takagi. He was very cocky going into this one, had already had possession of the IWGP United States Championship, but David Finlay not only wanted to prove himself in the G1 and pick up his first win in G1 Climax tournament history, he also wanted to prove that he was better than his former partner. Juice Robinson always was talking down to him, even throughout this entire matchup, but David Finlay would not be denied. He wouldn't quit. He kept fighting and fighting and fighting. And in the end, both men tried their best to kind of cheat their way to victory using, foreign objects. For Juice, it was the IWGP United States Championship. For Finlay, it was the shillelagh, and he used the shillelagh and the IWGP United States Championship, but he didn't want to win it that way. He picked up Juice Robinson, hit Trash Panda to get his first ever win in the G1. A great match with a fabulous crowd in Kurgan Hall that really added the most to this matchup. But without further ado, those were just the honorable mention. Let's get into the top 10 best matches of the G1 Climax 32 tournament. And of course, if I haven't said it before, if you're watching this on the premiere, let us know in the live chat what you thought about the G1 Climax 32 tournament. Let us know your favorite matches of this tournament. Let us know if you agree with my list. If you don't, let me know in the comments down below or in the live chat. I'd love to hear your opinion. If you have a difference of opinion, that's what we're here for. We're here to hear that difference of opinion. But let's get into the list here. Coming in at number 10, we got Tetsuya Naito versus Hiroshi Tanahashi from night 5 of this tournament. This one was a big match for both guys because they had versed earlier in the year in the New Japan Cup tournament, and Naito pulled out the victory over Tanahashi with a great roll-up move, which Naito is becoming known for. These kind of like slick little roll-ups that he does very quickly throughout these different matches, and he did that in the New Japan Cup earlier this year. So Tanahashi wanted some vengeance. He had had the win in the New Japan Cup had actually put Naito ahead of Tanahashi in their all-time list as well of all-time one-on-one encounters. So this one was very crucial for both men, very early on in the tournament as well, since it was night 5, and these guys just have some great chemistry with one another. One of the classic rivalries in New Japan Pro Wrestling over the last couple of years. Naito pulled out the same pin that he did in the New Japan Cup, but Tanahashi was able to kick out of it. The high fly flow, he hit one, he tried to go for another, but he missed. Naito hit that roll up, but Tanahashi kicked out. And then Naito tried to go for the Destino, but Tanahashi reversed it into an inside cradle to get the victory and to basically put Naito in a hell of a hole in the C block of this competition, because Naito dropped his opening contest to Goto early on in the tournament, on the I believe third night of the tournament. So this loss here put Naito at 0-2, and this was almost an insurmountable kind of hole for him to get through, even though Naito in the end was able to win the C block. This was a crucial matchup, great match between these two men. If I was put a star rating on it, I'd give it 4.5 stars. There's also a star rating that Uncle Dave Meltzer gave it, as Harlem is in the back. You get a Harlem Heat. Everyone loves the Harlem Heat invasion here. She's sleeping on the bed behind me, or laying down on the bed drinking her bottle as I talk about the G1 Climax tournament to all of you. But let's get into number 9 on this list, and it's another one featuring our boy, the Ace, Hiroshi Tanahashi. We move on to night 8 of the tournament as Hiroshi Tanahashi went one-on-one with Zack Sabre Jr. This one is just technical wrestling at its finest. These two guys just have some great chemistry with one another, and they just ebb and flow, where they don't take a lot of like high risks to their matches, but everything just looks so beautiful in the ring, and it just flows so nicely between one another. And they always have these type of matches with each other, and this was just another example of it. It didn't need to go long, and it didn't go long. This one went about just under 18 minutes. This was a crucial one because the winner of this matchup at the time would have taken control of the C block with a 3-1 record, and it was Hiroshi Tanahashi who overcame the technical wrestling of Zack Sabre Jr. Zack Sabre Jr. had him in a triangle choke, but Hiroshi Tanahashi flipped over into a pin to get the pinfall win, even though Zack Sabre Jr.'s arm was underneath the ropes at the time. So Zack Sabre Jr. definitely had an argument had a grudge to this one, but it was Tanahashi who pulled out the win, took control of the C block at that time, as Harlem kicks my banner and she's smiling at me. This kid always doing mess. But yes, Tanahashi and Zack Sabre Jr., another 4.5 star matchup from the G1 Climax 32 tournament. So I just did number 10 and number 9. I gave both of those matches 4.5 stars. So it tells you the quality of this tournament. Now, let's get into number 8 here, as we want to talk about the MVP, in my opinion, of the G1 Climax 32 tournament, Will Ospreay. And on the first night of the tournament, he gave us one of his better matches of the tournament as he went up against El Fantasma. Like I talked about earlier with El Fantasma's final match of the tournament, he had to make that statement win against Shingo Takagi, and he wanted to make a statement even early on with his first match in the tournament against Will Ospreay. These two guys have a rivalry that dates back to when both men were junior heavyweights, and really it was Will Ospreay that brought El Fantasma into New Japan Pro Wrestling. You know, El Phantasmo was a standout at Revolution Pro, and it was basically Will Ospreay's backing that got him his foot in the door for New Japan Pro Wrestling. So these guys know each other so well, and they showed that throughout this contest here. Just a very counter fest type of matchup. You had the athleticism of both men being shown throughout this one. El Phantasmo kicking out of the Os Cutter in the end, but it was Will Ospreay, who just has a plethora of ways to finish somebody, whether it be the Os Cutter, whether it be the Stormbreaker. But on this occasion, he used the Hidden Blade to get the victory in this one. Another 4.5-star matchup from the G1 Climax 32 tournament from night one. But night one had one more match that was just a little better. Spoiler alert, but we'll get to that. Let's move in to number 7 on our list, and that's Shingo Takagi going up against Yoshi-Hashi from night 4 of the tournament. And I would say this was the most surprising great match of this tournament, because Yoshi-Hashi is not the guy that we usually could say is going to give us the classic matches that we expect from the G1 Climax 32 tournament. But no question about it, he's one of the guys that really rose his stock in this tournament. Him and David Finlay, like we talked about earlier in our honorable mentions, David Finlay, you know, he really showed out with 3 straight wins against Juice, Shingo Takagi, and Will Ospreay, while Yoshi-Hashi just showed out by just having quality matches with just about anybody, whether it be El Phantasmo, whether it be Will Ospreay, whether it be David Finlay, Juice Robinson. It didn't matter. And Yoshi-Hashi had good to great matches with everybody, but the best of the bunch was him and Shingo from night 4. This was hard-hitting, fighting spirit being displayed by both competitors, and neither men would quit. Shingo Takagi kept going for his signature offense, and Yoshi-Hashi had an answer for all of it, while Yoshi-Hashi couldn't put him away with the butterfly lock, couldn't get his finisher off on Shingo Takagi. In the end, it was the Cobra combination, the ground Cobra pinfall that you see right here that got Shingo Takagi the win on night 4 here. A fantastic matchup that Uncle Dave Meltzer gave 4 3/4 stars. I went slightly below that. Still a great matchup. I give it 4.5 stars. These two guys really showed out, and definitely the best match from Yoshi-Hashi of the entire G1 Climax 32 tournament. But he came up a little bit short. So, like I said, all these matches, 4.5 stars so far, and this is where we get into the 4 3/4 range. Now, let's talk about the other match from night 1 of the tournament. Like I said, Ospreay and El Phantasmo, they had a terrific matchup. This one was just slightly better. It was the main event of night 1 of the G1 Climax 32 tournament, as Kazuchika Okada went one-on-one with Jeff Cobb, and Kazuchika Okada had a wonderful rivalry last year, with Jeff Cobb picking up the big win against Kazuchika Okada over at Jinku Stadium. And then when they got into the G1 Climax, both men were keeping pace. They were undefeated at one time. Tama Tonga defeated Kazuchika Okada, so he came in to their final night of the G1 Climax 31 tournament with the loss, while Jeff Cobb was undefeated, becoming the first man to go 8-0 in block action in the G1 Climax. And then they kicked off this tournament going up against each other, and this was just what you expect from both men. Jeff Cobb using his power, looking to kind of beat Okada at his own game with stuff. You know, he uses the Rainmaker at regularity now when he's up against Okada, but Okada just used his speed and his pacing that really has become the hallmark of an Okada match. The way he paces stuff and his storytelling, his selling is just on par with just about anyone in the world, and he just knows the right time to hit the right move, hitting the drop kick at just the right moment. He hit the landslide, I believe. Yes, he hit the landslide, and then he followed up with the Rainmaker to get the victory in this one. 4 3/4 stars, the best match of night 1 of the tournament. And in the top 6 for the G1 Climax 32 tournament overall. So great stuff from Cobb and Okada there. But we're in the 4 3/4 range, and now we're entering the top 5. Let's talk about the top 5. Like I said before, night 4 had that wonderful, amazing performance from YOSHI-HASHI against Shingo Takagi. A great matchup between those two men. But the best match of night 4 was number 5. Number 5 was Switchblade Jay White, the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, going up against Tomohiro Ishii. And if you know Ishii and Jay White, these two guys have counters upon counters that looks like a video game. Just how quick they can reverse different strikes, different suplexes, and how they ebb and flow, and how their reversals just look so smooth in the ring. The crispness at which they move with one another, it just is poetry in motion, and that's what we got on night 4. Jay White trying to play his game, which is he always has a game plan going into his matches. So he worked over the back and the neck of Tomohiro Ishii, trying to overcome the man that has always kind of been his kryptonite, whether it be his only loss coming into the G1 Climax 32 tournament was against Tomohiro Ishii earlier this year. Tomohiro Ishii beating him for the Never Openweight Championship, beating him in the G1 Climax 30 tournament when Switchblade Jay White had his block almost wrapped up. It was Tomohiro Ishii that beat him to kind of end his run in that G1, and he wanted to start off his G1 on the right track. And this was just a brilliant contest between these two men, just flowed so beautifully. And honestly, this was my front runner for the best match of the tournament for quite a few nights, because I just love these two guys and how they go at it. In the end, it was a thrilling ending sequence. It was Switchblade who reversed the vertical drop brainbuster into the Blade Runner. 1, 2, 3, defeating Tomohiro Ishii to go 2-0 in the G1 Climax 32 tournament up until that point. So great match, 4 3/4 stars. That's how it is with Switchblade Jay White, my leader. His best match of the tournament right there, and Ishii's best match of the tournament. But let's go into the top 4, and let's go into what we get later on in the tournament. We're going all the way to the semifinals. Semifinals on August 17th from the Budokan. It was Will Ospreay versus Tetsuya Naito. First time ever. And boy, oh boy, does these guys show out. Show the fuck out in this matchup. Like, I was amazed by a lot of the ways they were moving, even early on. Like, you would think that these guys have faced a million different times, how they were just flowing so beautifully with the different reversals at first. Then it was Naito working over the neck and the bad shoulder of the taped up shoulder and neck of Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay hitting his big moves, hitting the hidden blade and getting a near fall, going after Naito's eye with hard strikes, hitting his aerial offense, whether it be the better than phenomenal or 450 splash. So he was just he was on a different level over these 3-night span. His match against Juice, very good. His match against Naito was even better the following night. And in the Budokan, it was Will Ospreay hitting a second hidden blade right to the broken orbital bone of Tetsuya Naito, the bad eye of Tetsuya Naito, getting the near fall, a very close near fall that had the people in Budokan on their feet. Will Ospreay did not hesitate, though, picks up Naito, hits the Stormbreaker, 1, 2, 3, an excellent contest. 4 3/4 stars as Will Ospreay advanced to the finals of the G1 Climax 32 tournament, becoming the first British star to do so, and one of the bigger matches of the year. I mean, I was disappointed because I had Naito winning the entire G1 Climax 32 tournament, so trust me, this did not make me that happy. I'm just gonna let that be known. This did not make me that happy. This was kind of disappointed and ruined my bracket and what I wanted from the G1 Climax 32 tournament. I wanted it to be Naito and Okada in the finals, but can't deny how great a match it was. And honestly, at that point, I thought Ospreay was going on to win the finals, and we will bring up the finals. But first, let's get to number 3 on our list here, and we're going to talk about what was the biggest upset of the G1 Climax 32 tournament. Kazuchika Okada versus that boy, that top dog, Jonah, from night 13 of the tournament from Osaka Joe Hall. Like I said, Osaka had 2 of the best shows of this entire damn tournament, people. When I tell you, Osaka, they show out for Osaka, and they did on night 13. This was the headliner for night 13 here. And I don't know, going into this matchup, I thought Jonah would give Okada a run for his money because he has that size that is reminiscent of Bam Bam Bigelow, of Vader. But you always believe Okada's going to win in the end. And Okada just put on a performance that really was like, I'm going to make a star out of my opponent, because it seemed like every time Okada had an advantage, Jonah would cut him off using his size, using his agility, using just his overwhelming power over Okada. And it did not seem like Okada had an answer for it. And when we talk about the finish, this is probably the top 2 finishes of the G1 Climax 32 tournament overall, as Okada went to the top looking for the shotgun drop kick, the shotgun missile drop kick off the top rope, and Jonah caught him into a vicious power bomb, pulled them to the corner, and the roar of the crowd when he hit that power bomb, and as he went to the top rope, and people were like, "Oh my God, is this happening?" Like, these fans that are supposed to be clapping, that are not supposed to be audibly making noise, they made noise for Jonah as he went to the top, hits that big old torpedo on Okada, and 1, 2, 3, Jonah picks up not just his biggest win in New Japan Pro Wrestling, not just the biggest upset of the G1 Climax 32 tournament. This was the biggest upset of 2022 and the biggest win of Jonah's career. A man that 1 year earlier from the date of this show, he had been released from WWE after being an NXT North American champion, beating Johnny Gargano and beating Roderick Strong of the world. He picked up the biggest win of his career, beating the biggest star in New Japan Pro Wrestling. A hell of a performance by Jonah, and the biggest upset of the damn year. 4 3/4 stars. Dave Meltzer gave it the same rating as me. I love this match, and I've rewatched it, and I said, I think I gave it on our original review over on Patreon 4.5 stars, and after rewatching it, I had to bump it up. Some matches I bumped down, like Ospreay and Naito. For when I first watched it, I was like, I think that's 5 stars. Rewatching it, I was like 4 3/4. It was almost there, almost near perfect. Little, if it would have went a little bit longer, maybe it would have been 5 stars. This one, I had it a little bit lower and I bumped it up. So sometimes you need that second viewing to get a real accurate rating, as far as I'm concerned. But now we're going to enter the top 2, ladies and gentlemen. Top 2, coming in at number 2, night 12 from Osaka Joe Hall. Will Ospreay versus Shingo Takagi, probably the greatest in-ring rivalry in New Japan Pro Wrestling today, probably the greatest in-ring rivalry since Okada Tanahashi, Okada Omega in New Japan Pro Wrestling. These 2 guys, every single time, always know how to have a classic, and they did so here. These 2 men are just have this where they're in ring, the way they flow and their chemistry is just unreal. It's just they know what the other person is going to do at just the right time, and they know how to make it just look so beautiful. It's like art when these two men are going at it, whether it's Ospreay with his high flying ability, with dives to the outside, with the Os cutter, with flipping on Shingo's lariats, whether it's Shingo with hitting the strike at just the right moment. And the fact that these matches are so great without the fans being able to audibly make noise. Like they had a 6-star matchup in 2021. And the story going into this one is that, Will Ospreay has the advantage over Shingo Takagi. He was 3-1 going into this matchup, but he had never defeated Shingo in less than 30 minutes. He beat him, I believe, in over 35 minutes in the Best of the Super Juniors tournament finals in 2019. He beat him in the New Japan Cup finals in about over 35 minutes. The 47-minute classic, one of the greatest matches in New Japan Pro Wrestling history last year at Wrestling Dontaku for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. But Shingo's one win was in the G1 Climax, where it's a 30-minute time limit, and that's what it was here. So Shingo just knows how to get the job done, hit the bigger high impact moves, and that's what he did here. Reversals of the Os cutter, catching Ospreay in the Os cutter with a cutter of his own, hitting his own version of the hidden blade with a big sliding forearm. And in the end, out of nowhere, really, he hit the last of the dragon, got the victory over Will Ospreay. And it takes me a lot to go the full boat. And after the second viewing of this, I had no question. 5 motherfucking stars for Ospreay and Shingo. A match of the year candidate for sure. Another instant classic in their catalog of instant classics. In Dave Meltzer has never given these guys lower than 5 stars. Their G1 Climax tournament matchup in 2020 was 5 stars. That's the lowest rating he's ever given them. For the Best of the Super Juniors in 2019, he gave them 5.75 stars. For their New Japan Cup Finals match last year, he gave them 5.5 stars. The Wrestling Dontaku matchup was 6 stars. This match, he rated 5.5 stars. I give it 5 stars because I'm on a 5-star rating. You could debate in the comments or the live chat who got a better star rating system than me. If it's me or Uncle Dave, you let me know. Let me know in the comments down below, especially if you're watching on demand, so I can respond back. If you're watching on the live stream, let me know in the live chat if you think I have a better star rating system than Uncle Dave. SP3 greater than Uncle Dave. Put it in the live chat. But if number 2 has 5 stars, number 1 also has to have 5 stars. And if there was any match from the G1 Climax 32 tournament that I would go probably higher than 5 stars for, if I would break my own system that Dave has done on regularity, it would be number 1. Number 1, without question, you know what it is. It's the finals. Kazuchika Okada versus Will Ospreay, G1 Climax 32 finals from August 18th, Budokan Hall. This was simply phenomenal. An outstanding match from 2 of the best wrestlers in the goddamn world. The storytelling, the emotion, the selling. This is a matchup that is not about the out of this world, state of the art work rate that both men have. Will Ospreay can do anything in the ring. He did the twisting side press to the outside to the floor, Os cutters off the guardrail, off the the second rope, in the ring, out of the ring, on the apron. He did it all in this matchup. It's about the storytelling and the emotion that both men show. Like, one of my favorite parts of this matchup is not even a move. It's after Will Ospreay kicks out of the first Rainmaker and the struggle that he makes to just deny Okada his arm to try for another Rainmaker, and how he just keeps fighting and elbowing at Okada to get out of that Rainmaker position, because he knows if he gets hit with one more Rainmaker, that's it. And then, the story going into this matchup was Will Ospreay has versed Okada 7 different times, and he's lost 6. The only time he ever won was in the G1 Climax 30 tournament when he cheated to win, when he got help from the debuting Great Ocon. So he said that he was going to study all the greats that had defeated Kazuchika Okada, whether it be an AJ Styles, and he bust out the Styles Clash for a near fall, whether it be an Hiroshi Tanahashi, and he busts out the high fly flow for a near fall, and he even bust out his enemy, his sworn enemy, Kenny Omega, and he hit the V trigger, and he went for the One Ring Angel, but Okada, slid out of it, hit the Rainmaker, and Ospreay still kicked out. This was when that crowd in Budokan Hall believed Ospreay would win, even though Ospreay is the foreigner. He is not the biggest star in the company like Okada is. Those fans in Budokan Hall, I know the fans here in the US, the UK, they wanted Ospreay to win this one. And just this picture right here is just art. This was the thumbnail basically for our G1 Climax 32 roundtable review. The cockiness of Okada with the smile and the fighting spirit of Will Ospreay with that grimace on his face just showed you the story of this matchup. In the end, though, Ospreay hits the hidden blade multiple times, getting near falls, getting so close each and every time, but he couldn't hit the Stormbreaker. That was the one move that he was able to defeat Okada with when he beat him in the G1 Climax 30 tournament. He wasn't able to beat him with it in this match. He wasn't able to hit that One Wing Angel in this match. But Okada hit his new winning sequence, the Enziguri, the Inoki Enziguri, into the Cobra Flosion, and then one more Rainmaker. 1, 2, 3 out of after 34 minutes of incredible in-ring storytelling, in-ring action, selling, Kazuchika Okada wins his 4th and 2nd straight G1 Climax tournament. An instant classic, my match of the year, 5 motherfucking stars. Okada Ospreay was amazing. An outstanding matchup and an outstanding way to end the G1 Climax 32 tournament. Without question, the best match of the tournament they saved for last. Okada and Ospreay is a must-watch. If you haven't watched it, you need to watch it. Go out of your way to check that matchup out. So that is my list for the top 10 best matches from NJPW G1 Climax 32 tournament. But it's open to discussion, especially in the comments down below. Please let me know what you thought was the best match of the tournament. Not your favorite match, because like I said, if this was a list of my favorite matches, the list would be a little bit differently. But this is the list of the best matches. What I thought was the best of the best, the creme de la creme, off of the criteria that I gave you at the beginning of this video. The crowd, the action, the storytelling, the selling, the finish, the outcome, all comes into play. I know there'll be people that were disappointed by the result of the finals. They wanted Ospreay to win. They wanted anybody but Okada to win. But it makes sense. Okada wins. He's the bigger draw in Japan. He's the guy that would sell out a Tokyo Dome on January 4th, 2023. Whoever is the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion going against Okada, that's going to get the type of attendance that New Japan won. So I try not to get too emotionally invested in that part and just base it on the quality of what we saw. And that was the best match, not only of this tournament, in my opinion, the best match of the year. I want to thank everybody who's checked out this video. Of course, check out a bunch of great stuff that we got all throughout the YouTube channels, whether it be here, whether it be True Hill Heat Sports YouTube channel as well, whether it be Fightful Overbooked, where you could check out the latest edition of True Rewind number 82.6 with the debut of Sean Waltman in WCW as the newest member of the NWO. Check out the special 5-year anniversary of True Hill Heat. True Hill Heat 189 5-year anniversary. It was myself, Miss Chrissy Love, Top Guy JJ, Stat King, the Drunk Guy JJ, aka the new Sober Guy JJ, our Patreon backers such as the Negro Buck Nick Jackson, DJ Eric. We had Jane News aboard for that one. We had Professor Chris with us from the NWA podcast. We even had a special appearance from Baby Seth. And then watch all the way through to the end as Romeo dropped us with footage from the first ever edition of True Hill Heat all the way back in 2017. So this is a must-watch and all-timer episode of our flagship podcast. So go out of your way to check that out. And of course, check out the full wrap-up of the G1 Climax 32 tournament. Myself and Jay News, our roundtable review, talking all about Ospreay versus Okada in the finals, the final 3 nights, all the final block matches, as well as the semifinals. We talked about it all and gave our MVP, LVPs, who were elevated and who stock went down during the G1 Climax 32 tournament. Check that out. That is all up on our YouTube channel. If you like more New Japan Pro Wrestling coverage, check out patreon.com/True Hill Heat. For $3 a month, we do more exclusive New Japan coverage, not just videos like this. We do videos talking about, different side shows, what's going on in New Japan. Patreon.com/True Hill Heat. $3 a month. Become a Patreon backer. It's the best way to support what we do here. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram @True Hill Heat. Follow me, True Hill SP3, for all the stuff I'm doing, not only on this channel, but other channels around the wrestling YouTube verse, and ProWrestlingTees.com/True Hills for your True Hill Heat merchandise. So that is it for our G1 Climax 32 coverage. This has been my top 10 best matches of the G1 Climax 32 tournament. I want to thank everyone for joining us. I want to thank you all for supporting what we do here on the True Hill Heat YouTube channel. It is me, True Hill, signing off. Until next time.